Hey, thank you for joining my our Comm lead, and I just want to introduce myself. I'm Kevin Manning. I'm part of the 2020 cohort. Uh, I've been a writer my entire life. I spent the last decade in journalism, where I worked for the Tacoma News Tribune. I was a sports editor at the Puyallup Herald, and before that, Puyallup Post. And all along the way, just learned different lessons, utilizing my skills and from a creative writer and translating into award-winning work as a journalist. And now this is just kind of highlighting some of my work and finally reaching out to people that actually can help me grow as a writer and grow as a person. If anybody wants to talk during this and actually ask questions, feel free. Don't just, I don't need to just be the only speaker here. I actually like to have a collaboration or people to share their thoughts even after something's been read or something's going on, because I think that's important just to create that connection in that community. All right, so first I'm going to share my screen, just kind of give you a little idea of my world. So on Friday during Mo's presentation, people said show the dog, so that's what I did. I just kind of gave you guys right away of, can you see my screen? Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yep, you're good.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure. All right, so this is Orion in the top. He always poses, so that's just one thing. He'll look at me and just stand there and do different poses for a camera. He's a camera hog. And this is Annie, his little sister. And Annie is adopted too. So we adopted her from Sunnyside down in Puyallup, and she's been a part of the family since then. But I always want to start anything with a little music to take myself out of it. I like to meditate, help me write, and I always find something that creates the creativity inside me. And if people are willing to listen to a song, I like to play something, and it kind of gets you understand where I'm going forward with a lot of my writing. It's good.
Kevin, is the music coming out for you? Because it's not, we can't hear it.
You guys can hear it?
Did you share sound when you shared screen?
Let me check again on that.
When you click on share screen, there should be like a little checkbox in the bottom that says share like computer sound too. And that might be.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. I'm looking, I just said share screen. Oh, optimize. Sorry, this is a lot of technology. I'm getting used to.
Hey, you're totally
this.
Fine.
Here, okay, there's share sound. And let's start this.
There you go. And then now when you play the video, it should play for us too. There you go.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. thank you for indulging me for a second on, or a few minutes on that song. That's actually a song like Picture Moment by Shook that's impacted me a lot in the last year or so, simply because in that one melody of the Be Everything is telling this like a simple story that anyone can interpret. It can go from a sad song to a happy song. It's the upliftingness of everything is in a moment, and we take what we take from it. Uh, and that's the basis of who I've been and who I've become as a writer, which is highlighted with these quotes here. First one by Brandon Sanderson. The purpose of a storyteller is not to tell how you think, but to give questions to think upon. And then Maya Angelou, obviously, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. And then the last one is a little self-indulgence, is there is but one difference between a storyteller and a daydreamer. They both aspire for the same goals in telling the story. The only difference is a daydreamer internalizes their dreams, where a storyteller has the ability to bring their dreams to light. And before I want to get into any detail, just a disclaimer of where this is going to go and everything that happens is, who are you? These are the questions that I've always asked myself since I was young, since I was 7 years old, basically, learning how I had ADHD and I was born with an inner-ear hearing loss where I'm partially deaf. I struggle to hear certain audible levels. There are times where I can't even hear anything. With tinnitus is so bad that you can talk to me and I won't know what you're saying, and I'll ask you to repeat. That's just a simple thing, but when it goes down to here, the second quote is, with that, the world is not always a beautiful place. It's always the ability to see the beauty where many overlook. The ideals and pursuit of understanding all of those around us can give us, each and every one, a deeper knowledge of themselves. These are the thing. When I say, who are you? It's really the question I always ask myself, who are you? And always try to find myself in that and in my writing. And sorry, didn't mean to do that. It led to me discovering this poem by Robert Frost when I was younger, Fire and Ice. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold those who favor fire. But if I had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. And before I continue, I just want to make sure everyone is with the material that I might be talking about today. Is everyone okay with some graphic conversations? Nothing too profane, nothing too graphic in the sense where there's violence or anything like that, but just like talking about personal struggles where I grew up with. I just want to make sure before I go into any details about that for people, just if it's okay. Okay, good, cool. Well, part of me being a writer, what inspired me to be a writer, is I grew up in a family of domestic violence. I grew up where I've now discovered, or I've now discussed it. I discussed it as life was like a hurricane coming home, where my parents always argued, my parents always yelled, and reading and writing was my escape. Like when I went to school, there was no escape at school kind of thing. It was hard to find people that would listen to me, find people that would actually be there and be honest with me. Like, it was just teachers thought I was lying, talking about my family life. Family thought I was lying, talking about my family life, that kind of thing, to the point where I've actually had to leave the toxicity of my father behind me, the toxicity of my brother behind me. Even though my brother's just had a child, that kind of thing. My brother's my best friend growing up. These things I had to learn to leave behind as a way of coping with the domestic violence I struggled in my life. And part of that is reaching out now into these things like here, finding community to be able to move beyond those. With that being said, I appreciate your time to hear those comments, because to me, it's really important to have that. So I'm just going to skip one slide for you guys real quick. So my first writing when I was about 13 years old, I came up with this little 4-line quote of trying to discover who I am. So who am I? And it came down to these little things. Those who wear the cloak of shame tend to point the finger and blame. Those who wear the cloak of shame tend to find one and the same. And this poem here is the first one that I really was embraced by teachers that actually said I was a writer and led me on a path of writing. And it led to here, this story, where I was able to have a discussion with a man about his son who overcame poverty, overcame homelessness to be able to go to Eastern Penn to play lacrosse. And now Hassan has the ability to play for the Ugandan national team, play for the Israeli national lacrosse team, and the United States national lacrosse team. And this story started off with simply as a father and son going to Uganda to teach the Ugandans or help create the Ugandan national lacrosse team. And that was the whole goal, and this connection from South Hill and a connection back to New York, where Larry Mackey, the father, is from Huntington, one of the boroughs. So if you've read Art of the Wu, if you follow anything about the Wu-Tang Clan or anyone that lived in New York City in the boroughs, there's a lot of their life house these conversations, where Larry lost his parents when he was 18 to AIDS. And I had to bring this story out and bring out all the elements, and it led to an actual award. But this here is just the element of seeing the details of the people and trying to see their voice and explain their story, kind of thing. And this comes from creative writing where I had before. And it leads to these human moments where the story can transcend to.
My name is Hassan Mackey. I'm attending Eastern University in Pennsylvania, and this is the lead shot trainer.
A lacrosse player, and start playing lacrosse, and Dad's a little older than you, so I want to do all the newfangled stuff, and Dad tries to keep you on the straight and narrow and just focusing on your skills. And finally, it clicks when you listen after getting mounted a few times by teams that you shouldn't beat. And then as you listen and you start to get better, you start dreaming, and so the dream starts coming true the more you listen and the more you work.
Because I remember being in their shoes. Being in their shoes in high school, or come out and practice, and they're just looking at them oh my God, this is a high school kid, this is the coolest thing ever. So I remember being in their shoes, so I want to get back to them.
What? That's dangerous. I like the camouflage outfit you got going on there.
Oh, thank you.
Is that just kind of what you want to do when you're older, is
yes.
Giving back?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Describe that. Just talk about that.
Whether I don't care what it is, as long as I give back to everyone who gave to me and even more. As long as I can do that, I'll be happy.
Go ahead.
Well, he had a really good coach in high school, and Seacrest, he took my incomplete son and gave him a playbook and completed him and then let him run around and throw the ball to his buddies, But in that, man, one of the things that we talk about is growing the game. You know, you'll hear that across is growing the game, man. Because we're jealous of everybody else. Everybody looks all shiny, and we could be shiny too.
Number one thing I learned. Patience. But also to have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, my dad, he was a hardhead.
Really?
He was coaching me.
Yeah,
Yes,
hardhead.
yes, when he was coaching me. But, I mean, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun, and I know I got on his nerves sometimes, so that's the patience. Learn when, okay, this guy's right, so I need to listen to him.
You know, you're.
So those moments I had there were those moments I had there in that video, those natural organic storytelling forming in that video and from that relationship was just created from just listening. Really just came down to, like, one of the aspects when I was dealing with domestic violence, I turned into a strength as an adult is the being able to listen to the world around me and hear it. And for me, that's actually a great accomplishment as someone who's partially deaf, someone who has to take the extra time to listen, to look people in the eyes and bring out a laughter, and talking, like, after talking about struggling to eat that day. Like, that was the issues a lot of these kids, when I talk to many of these students and these kids that have gone through that, I've gone through those things. I remember having to steal school lunches at Rogers High School just to eat because I had no food at home. I had no structure at home. I had to learn how to read basically by myself. I had to teach myself how to write. I had to teach all these aspects, and that's what's shown in my life. And that's what's shown in my work, and trying to connect with people is creating those human moments is that you actually can understand when you go through shared experiences, and people relate to that and they react to it. And that led to not one, but 4 different stories for 4 weeks on Hassan and Larry, on their family. Where to the point now, Larry's telling me everything about Hassan graduating Eastern Pennsylvania and playing lacrosse and going out and doing, participating with the national team, and like telling me, man, Hassan's coming back. Those kind of things. It feels good as a writer. It feels good as a storyteller when you have a person that says, I want you to tell my story. When I tell anybody, I want you to tell my story. So and that all came from just basically being honest and being myself. Which goes back to here.
Kevin, thank you for sharing that. I think I'm not sure everyone else on this call, how much, journalism we've all been involved with, but I think whoever has, really listening and having those deep, meaningful conversations, even if it's, 10 minutes or if it's a story that's gone on for a couple of days and you've seen them multiple times, I think man, it's just so powerful, other than take away the actual recording or photographing or writing or whatnot. It's those moments with those people when you're genuinely interested in hearing what they have to say in their story. I mean, there's nothing more rewarding than that. So yeah, I completely agree. Definitely thanks for sharing that story. It's cool.
It's funny you say that. It's one of my first year, a year into at the Pure Apparel. This is 2015 June. I'm at Bonnie Lake football training camp, and they're just training with a bunch of kids. The kids in the community coming out to having fun, doing fumble drills, tackling. And then Jason Subball, the coach, says, "Hey, I got a story for you. This kid over here, Ethan Kepke, he's overcome homelessness. He's been, he was living in a tent before and coming to school to clean up and then coming to practice. And all his food was at school. He wasn't or if he could sneak over to a friend's house, they would sneak out plates just for him to eat. And it's how he overcame that. And he overcame domestic violence. And the coach was trying to push this story on me. So my approach was to go talk to Ethan, talk to the kid, and just say, how you doing? And then I said, coach was telling me you're living in a tent. That kind of thing is brought by and by. But I first came up to him and said, it looks like the kids are responding to you. Like, look like the kids really reach out to you. What does that mean to you to be able to have these kids have this laughter and laughing at your jokes, being able to listen to you, and that they're holding on to every word. And he explained how that was meaningful to him. And then it turned into him basically me asking a simple question. He didn't really want to talk about it. And I said, I understand. So I grew up like that. Like we all have things that we dealt with. And then for the next half hour, Ethan just started explaining to me the domestic violence with his father, how his father would throw beer bottles at his head, how he had to run away and live in a tent, that he was living nearby school, and going to school every day, getting in there as soon as at 6 o'clock, where the janitors were letting him in just so he can go shower and clean up and get food, where the cafeteria workers were giving him free food. And he was telling me how 2 writers at the News Tribune were trying to, for 18 months, trying to get this story out of him. And within 30 minutes, I had the entire story told to me. Like how he felt that he understood that I saw where he came from, that I had the same experience. And because of that, it led to T.H.A. Cotterill and Todd Millis being able to write that story. And they were able to publish it in November. It took them another 6 months almost just to be able to get him to tell the story that he was able to tell me, because he was waiting for me to say it. He didn't fully trust people that have after that story happened, he led Bonnie Lake to the quarterfinals of the state playoffs on his back. He put the team on his back, and they were supposed to be a one and done team, and they kept winning and winning and winning because he had this burden lifted off his shoulders. This story that he just held inside him. It goes back to that Maya Angelou quote, that you have to say that, you have to get that story out. And after Bonnie Lake lost to Eastside Catholic, Ethan wanted me to walk back with him to the bus, and throughout the whole thing, he was thanking me that all I did was just listen. I didn't write anything on him. I didn't really cover the team to the degree that he was saying. I just listened and helped him get his story out. And he cried. You know, tell him that was a moment that had an impact on my life, where he told me that for me listening to him and explaining to other people how to approach his story, he cried. And that's my last memory with him, outside that he joined the Marines. So that he wanted to get back. He wanted to fight for the things that people didn't fight for him. Which brings me to my main muse, and the reason why I've been able to listen. I observe everything around me, my dogs. I try to see what they think. And like I said, Orion, my little dog of war, he's my little battle companion. He's always with me, always on my side. And I just love how, in this little picture here you see in my car ride, that's actually how he sits when I drive. He likes to sit on the console or stand on the console and act as if he's watching me and telling me to go where, that kind of thing. And then he comes over and tries to roll down the window himself. He knows the buttons. So those are the two things. He was a birthday gift to me. This is 10 years, 4 days, and a little bit over an hour he's been in my life. And it's kind of funny that he came in life around the same time I was born in Sherman, Texas. So, and these are the 2 poems I wrote about him getting his sister Annie that you saw in the beginning. So the first one is "Turn Around is Fair Play." Don't look on me with those eyes of yours, pouty face. You asked for it, looking for a friend, a companion for you out on the sea. You've been here before, but only in reverse. So don't you look upon me with those eyes and just know this wasn't known for what it would become, a little sister sewn into your star's shadow. So don't look on me with those eyes, drooping ears, just because you got more than you asked for. And the next one, learning to let go. I learned a lot of lessons from how my dogs interact, that the great game that is life is universal, and that nature has its own philosophy, that when sharing our world experiences, the home becomes cultured, refined, and close. Just from watching my dog speak displays upon the ground, I see love put aside, shared, and freely given, and the world becomes close, encircled, and protected. Those two inspirations for those poems come from seeing them interact. This is Annie, like Orion. If you look at his face, he's always looking ears back, drooping down. And this is a nosy, a little girl that wanted a best friend, and he wanted a best friend, and he gave up his world for her. That little duck that she's holding, that's his, that he gave up to her. And she always lays on him, always sleeps around him. Even to this day, she tells him to move over. This is like, you're my brother. And I ended up adopting Annie. When I say we, my mom helped out, kind of thing. It was she wanted to give Orion a new little puppy. So when Orion adopted Annie, he was missing another sister. I recently broke up with my ex. Before then, she took our dog, which was Ryan's sister. And when that happened, I had to give Ryan a companion, something to make him happy, because he'd never had another companion in his life before. Sadie came along, and then Annie came along after that. And then last year, because of keeping that dialogue open, keeping that ability to listen and not to hold grudges for things that happened against me to the degree, I was able to get Sadie back in my life. And this poem came from that actual exchange. And I wasn't a part of it. It was my mom, but I had to, like, a little backstory. My ex, she cheated on me. Happens to everybody. That wasn't the issue. But while we were going out, she lied about a miscarriage. She lied about a pregnancy. And for a long time, since 2017, I still am getting over those emotions that someone can put you through eight weeks of those feelings. And then I lived over a year long afterwards. And then I wrote this as a response. And there's other poems I wrote by here, but this here was the main response was, she wasn't innocent, a capital not worth the charge, at least to you. A beam from heaven snagged together into a ball, ferocity, all brought back, and that's the only aspect that was worth all of the painful nights crept at the edge of the bed, waiting for the inevitable pullback towards the middle of the pallet, waiting to be consumed, soulless and left in a purgatory, watching night skies pass by, seeing the orange glow of the parking lot lamps snap on for a few hours, and then slowly die out. A warming body at my side with the deep breaths and hands reaching out to make sure I'm still there. Swear those nights next to you were ecstasy, pure stimulations that burned through veins before cutting it out the wrist, letting the shadows from the night pour out. And little by little, those poisons drain from me, too slow, but they do take their leave. Even with one small gesture, I swear what was given to me was not worth it. But her, she was innocent, and my heart has melted. Yeah, that's the first time I ever read that poem to anybody. I don't know what people think, or feel free to say anything, ask questions or anything. Okay. Now there's something fun. This is Veda. This is my brother's dog. I've been taking care of her for better part of 12 years. She's 12 years old. She's a full-bred Scottie, and that's her smile. That's her happiness. So when she was a puppy, she used to do this little habit of snapping, and I had to kind of train that out of her. But she still does a little snapping. It was always like I always called her a crocodile. Give me a second. I have a chat. I'm still learning. Thank you, Eric. Sorry, I'm still like doing this whole chat stuff is still new to me, kind of thing. This is actually outside of being on Friday. This is the first time I've really been on a web session. So play with the crocodile smile. Chomp chomp. It was an exclamation about life as a happy little face raided like an invader onto this home, taking fingers as your price for a gleeful little face with a crocodile smile. And Veda's nickname, her name is Darth Veda, named after Darth Vader. She's a little Sith Lord, and I call her Crocodile. That's her nickname for me, is Crocodile, just because of how she always likes to come and snaps, and she has to grab your hand. It's like, I need you to pet me, that kind of thing. And it's lovable. It's not a violent or anything. She loves people. She whines for people to touch her, to pet her. It's just like, I want to meet you. That's her whine. And then a couple more poems about dogs, because like I said, dogs are a big part of my life. I learned to cope with all the stuff I've gone through by taking all the energy and putting it into my dogs and putting into things that are positive in the world, which is also part of the writing. And here is A World Without Peanut Butter. All gone. The spoon crest over the horizon, and the excitations is entrenched in their stare. Love it. Little cat, love it. All gone, and the spoon crest over the horizon, and the excitation is entrenched in their stare. With every lap, the silver gains its shine, leaving a bare path that was a mound, dug out and gone. All but forgotten what was once upon the spoon. That is just my dogs always giving me sad looks after giving him a little spoonful of peanut butter, to the point where Orion now is afraid of spoons and afraid of forks, because he doesn't want to. He gets it like all over his face, and he hates that. Like he has his peanut butter over his face, so he's like, "No, you drop it on the floor, then I'll eat it." This other untitled, I haven't titled yet, but this one here next to it, I wrote one of the. This is the poem. I was sitting outside of the Jewel Box Cafe down in Ruston Way in Tacoma, and as I was eating breakfast there, having coffee, an Americano with almond milk, 2 raw sugars, that's my go-to. I ended up seeing a person walking away from their dog after they had to chain them up and go get the coffee, and I wrote this down within like the time it took to actually for them to come in there and back to get the coffee back. And this is sweet love chained and unbroken into a whimper, a feeling of loss, alone in a world of unknown, fearing the loss of a familiar scent, a gentle brush against the brow, waiting for the end of a long ticking of time, unknown, but for dearest has been chained, waiting for hope on a morning filled with love and joy. So those are kind of little animal poems I have, but I'll read. Is everybody up to read like a longer poem? I have a lot of short ones, but I have longer ones if they want to hear a longer one. I'll give it a vote. Okay, I'll read these two. These are just baseball sports. like people always ask me why I can cover my high school and not have this sense of pride for the high school and like be completely stay objective. And it came down to this simple quote to the left, which is why I don't believe in fandom. Isn't it obvious as to why I don't believe? It's because that faith has flown out and left me. And then I'll let you read this other one yourselves. I can always come back to it later, but I'd rather go because time constraints. I want to make sure I can read one that I have available. So let's see. Let's end. Stop sharing this. Go here. All right. So all these poems here, this is roughly 5,236 words. A lot of different poems I've written. And I just kind of continue to write down different things different poems that all one sitting. I don't just sit and like write and come back. I rarely do. And most of the stuff I've written are all in one sitting. So if everything's here, so this here basically, when I was impacted a lot by George Floyd's death and the Black Lives Matters movement and everything. Just the idea of keep hearing the same story over and over from people who are on Twitter, on social media, from athletes, from like newscasters, just anyone, like people of color that would come out and explain this same story of being voiceless, being that they have to keep repeating themselves to be heard in the sense. And I understood that. I understood when I was growing up with my father. One of the aspects he always did is he would tell me to shut up, not let me talk, and then push me with a violent shove to tell me to introduce myself. Like if I didn't say anything, those kind of aspects, because it was a sense of control for him. And I understood that controlling the voice, everything is a tool that a lot of people do to oppress those. So I basically related to it in a sense with this poem right here. I plead that the ship will sail through the night. The sky was gray and the clouds laid heavy on this vessel, so I plead the sea will hold through the night. Stay calm and allow for safe harbors by the morning's light. I plead to find a way when the lights have gone out. I plead. I speak to calm nerves brought about of the night. A directionless sky and cold breeze break off the brow, and the wind has begun to blow in the fog, overtaking the night and tearing out my eyes. So I speak to keep my wit forming on and not giving into the darkness that surrounds this vessel. So I plead. I speak to hear my words where the endless void stretches. I plead. I scream at the silence that dares to stare back at this vessel, a punctuation of the carelessness of the night. Waters and rain pour down while the wind whips through the darkness that envelops this vessel, seeking to find safe harbors upon the distant shores. But lost under the lightless sky, I scream to hear something other than the roar of the world snapping around me, where the truth of this feeling in my heart has been slandered. I scream at the chaos and the night forcing silence. So I scream, even when my voice has gone dry from combating the storm in the night, and the only water given has been poisoned by the sea. So I scream at the night, at the sky and the endless night that had the audacity to taunt this vessel. I scream at the void that answers back, stripping everything from this ship on the sea. I scream, I cry. I feel as if there is no tears left inside of me, but I cry anyways. The night has broken this vessel on the water. Sky be damned for the lack of compass, the disregard and carelessness of the night. The darkness has gone on endlessly on the sea. The damn night, the damn fucking night that has been too harrowing as it has taken my voice, stripped me to nothing but a vessel drifting on the sea, laying towards the sky, crying, why did you leave me in such a state? So I cry because there is no point in screaming anymore. The fucking sky won't answer me when the storm could not destroy this vessel. I'll cry because the silence of the night has overtaken this vessel. No stars out there will hear my voice, so I cry. No one will hear my plea, so I cry. No silence will greet me, so I cry. No love will come to me, so I cry. No storm will break me, so I cry. No night will defeat me, so I cry. No silence will keep me, so I cry. No darkness shall shelter me, so I cry. No sea will conquer me, so I cry. I stand up and I cry, looking for the distant shore in the night, knowing that somewhere out there and out in the void there is a light, a bright beacon calling me home. So I cry. I stand firm and I cry to the sky until the morning light crosses that horizon or until the night sky erupts in fireworks. My voice will return, but until then I will settle and cry through the night knowing there is a safe harbor somewhere out there. So I use a lot of repetition in my writing. I don't know if it has the impact that it is. I don't know if it has the impact that it's supposed to, but I like to use a lot of repetition in my writing just as ability to explain different little aspects of how you feel, like how you go through and everything. So, and a lot of these are not finished poems, but some of them are. Let's see. Anyone up for one more or a couple more?
Kevin, why don't you open it? Do one more, but then let's
yeah,
that's why questions that folks have. Okay, since we're running out, we've got about 7 minutes left.
Yeah, I want to make sure if anybody wanted like that kind of thing. So let me do one more. I'll do 2 short ones since they can go quick. This one, I quit cold turkey. I had a really bad New Year's where my apartment was full of smoke. Friends came over, partied, all that kind of stuff. So I quit, and this is the story of how I quit smoking. How I quit smoking cold turkey. It was a strange morning after a long New Year's Day where the smoke had just cleared from my apartment. And there I stood looking down at a curious yellow package, American Spirits, that had knocked mine aside. It took the breath from my lips, the dusty aroma-filled lungs of cough and smoke from my soul. So I put them aside, a freshly open package, small, curious, and yellow. So that's that one. And then the last one, I probably shouldn't write while I'm angry. Because I'm mad at you and we just fought. You have an infuriating way you go about things, or say. But I'm not really upset with you or even angry at the words that were said. I really don't know what has me riled up so much. So there you go. Now I'm leaving it up to everyone else to give comments, critiques, anything else you want to know about me or about my writing style or any other poems or anything. Leaving it up.
Well, thanks for sharing, Kevin. I think we were all just kind of really digesting your words because they're obviously, well thought out, really powerful, and clearly are very personal to you. So even though you don't know any of us, thanks for, jumping on and sharing all of that because that takes a lot of bravery to do that. But yeah, we're excited to have you in the program for sure.
I'm I'm excited to be here in the program with all y'all, everyone, and I'm looking forward to get to know everyone. And I want to first apologize if I do come off like I don't like follow the correct way of like discussing how everyone identifies or just different things about people. Is that I'm coming from a very masculine world of sports journalism where you have two gender roles, boys and girls. And that, yeah, and we're in AP style, and journalism is actually still developing how to discuss a growing diverse community. So I want to first apologize that it's just a growing experience for myself. And that's one thing I always learn, is that we need to learn throughout life. Does anyone else have anything they want to ask or say? And I appreciate the comments down the post, I really do. Is that a hand raise? I don't know if that is.
That was more like applause. So that was good.
Okay. All right.
All right, Kevin. Well, I just want to say thank you again. Kind of echoing what Eric said here, that like it's a big deal for anyone to kind of come up and do anything our comm lead style, and for someone who was just jumping into the program and jumping into the community itself is it can be daunting. And so to Eric's point, we really appreciate you sharing what you had here and being vulnerable, and know that like that is the kind of stuff that we hope that you continue to do at your time here, is continue to have that vulnerability, continue to do a lot of that exploring piece. You mentioned just now about like you like apologized a lot right now about like recognizing that you most of your life experiences has been around this kind of like gender binary, and there's a lot of learning that needs to go into that. And where do we there's a personal responsibility to that. And so I hope that you're exploring that as well. And like, how are you learning more about kind of the spectrum that is gender, to allow yourself to, so that you're not having to apologize anymore, is one thing that I will throw out there for you. And know that, again, I told you this earlier, I did a lot of work with students around masculinity and how we understand gender and how do we understand each other through that. So feel free to come in and chat with me about it. But yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you all for being here, for Kevin as well. I'm going to hit the stop recording here, but you all feel free to stick around if you wanted to continue talking. Yeah, I'm going to hit stop.